Hello, welcome this April 9th, 2022. It is Saturday once more, so you know what that means, children. It's another episode of Misfits of the Galaxy, a vlog series that I'm putting together where I'm mixing sword and sorcery of D&D with space opera style campaign setting using the 5th edition rule set. I've used a lot of material from what was formerly known as the Middle Finger of Vecna and is now known as Mage Hand Press. I'll put links to their material down below. This is a campaign setting for my podcast group, the Isle of Misfit Rolls. If you haven't heard of us before, I'll put links down where you can get our podcast down below. Additionally, we've begun to transition over to a Twitch live stream event where we will be reacting in real time to the campaign that our DM Mike has created as we go about the world of Vertes, trying to fight off the sinister darkness, as he has called it. It will be available, or we will be online, I should say, every 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays, all the way till about 11:30 Eastern Standard or p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, we've had a few times that we've skipped out on the event due to various real life circumstances that regretfully always seems to get in the way of gaming sometimes. But yeah, we'd really appreciate it if you join us for the ride, in a manner of speaking. You get to see this ugly mug a little bit more. Um, Also, you get to see people's reactions before they get edited for the podcast, and some of those are pretty funny. So, let's jump right into it. Last week I was discussing near the end of that vlog chapter. I was discussing grafts, two types, construct and monstrous. So, in both cases, it's taking a part, typically from either a construct or or a magitech device that is specifically designed for that purpose, and attaching it to a person or replacing a limb or organ or something similar to that effect. Or in the case of monstrous grafts, you're typically taking a part from either a living donor or a recently deceased donor and grafting it to a character. In both, the construct grafts are supposed to mimic I suppose, the cybernetics that are prevalent in many sci-fi settings. As for the monstrous grafts, I've always been a fan of Rippers, a Savage Worlds campaign setting, and the entire idea of Ripper Tech, where the characters in that setting become, in order to fight monsters, they become monsters themselves. And that was introduced a little bit with the Blood Hunter class that Matt Mercer introduced from Critical Role fame. And I kind of want to extrapolate on that, like, because the Blood Hunter is very similar to that of the Witcher as a as a PC player character class. I want to have it go a little bit beyond that, and which is why I'm introducing the monstrous grafts into there. There's a bit of overlap between that and the construct. Naturally, some monster grafts are actually the donor is a construct, and some of them, like cyber or construct eyes that allow you to see dark, either in thermosight or dark vision. It's very similar to a monster graft that would allow you to see in the dark as well. This overlap is fine for my purposes. There are a few slight differences, excuse me, between the two. Like, for example, living constructs like Warforged or the Vect, which is a race specifically for this campaign, have an easier time of adding or construct grafts themselves because they're already living constructs. Uh, Subsequently, there isn't anything similar to that presently for the monster grafts or monstrous grafts. Although I'm thinking of maybe permitting the blood hunter specifically to be able to not necessarily attach the grafts faster, but for their bodies to accept them more readily without as much potential rejection. In either case, if you're not a Vect or a Warforged with a construct graft, especially one that has been directly like obviously has been removed from a living construct, there's going to be some pretty negative consequences to that when you encounter those particular species. I'm suspecting what I'll probably end up doing is giving the people a disadvantage on any social check, unless it's intimidation against that particular species or race, as a result of the fact that you actually have a part of them that clearly has been either forcefully or in some other fashion removed from them. Same with the monster grafts. If you have a monster graft from a sentient monster species, you're going to run into problems when you're trying to socialize with said monstrous species, because they're going to want to know where exactly you got that and why you have it. So as I was talking with one of the players from the Isle Misfit Rolls, Adam, I'm going to go into a bit more detail as to kind of what grafts are available, and beyond just giving a vague outline. So let me see if I can pull up the 1 second here. Pull up my notes on the construct grafts first. So there's a fair list of them. Really, they break down into what body slots they take. Every character has a body slot for their arms, an external body slot, one for their heads, an internal body slot, and their legs. Um, a lot of the armors and skins, so we're looking at stuff like adamantine plating, um, mithril plating, spiked plating, etc., etc. These are all like, you don't have to physically wear armor at this point. You actually have an AC, a sort of natural AC at this point. They all pretty much fit on the external, where that they would take that particular slot. Additionally, you're dealing with stuff like wings would be another one, or perhaps even replacement, where you're actually just replacing something that's missing. A good example of an external graft or external construct graft that is a replacement would be if a character fell into a big vat of acid and like pretty much most of their skin was dissolved, and they somehow survived it and did not have the opportunity to use restoration. So instead, they had a bunch of synthetic skin grafted to their externally on them. Uh, arms can be anything from like battle fists or like built-in retractable blades to like tools, enhancements to your strength, etc., etc. Legs, very similar. You can have legs that would allow you to swim better, climb better, move faster, jump higher. There's all sorts of, pretty much anything you can imagine that from a sci-fi setting where cybernetics exist, there's probably a graft out there, like a construct graft specifically for it. So I don't know if I necessarily need to go through the entire list of what's available. Instead, I might just post for my group at the very least a list of, okay, this is what's available with descriptors and costs associated with it. Uh, a lot of these grafts come from either Warforged or Vect. They can be manufactured as Magitech, but in many instances, these have been removed from living constructs. As I said, as a result of this, characters that aren't living constructs with these parts are often like looked upon very poorly by said species. to the point where, as I believe, they'll have a disadvantage on social checks, as I described earlier, to everything but intimidate. After all, they have no idea how you got it or why you got it or anything to that effect. All they know is it's very likely one of their kind has been destroyed so that you can have this part. That said, as I said, stuff like replacements, like artificial, like replacement limbs and the like, these aren't necessarily these can be custom designed as Magitech devices that don't have to have a uh, a living construct donor associated with them. There's a few other parts that are very similar to that effect. That oops, sorry, it got darker. My apologies. And oh, the way I'm looking at it with that is the living constructs that see you with these set grafts wouldn't necessarily be able to distinguish whether or not this is one that was taken from one of their kind or custom built for you. As for monster grafts, well, this is kind of interesting. So monster grafts are there's a lot of overlap between monster grafts and the construct grafts, but with monster grafts, they all come from living or recently deceased donors of various sorts. This is the entire idea of I want, I want the like retractable claws from, oh, let's say a werewolf. I want I want some of the regenerative properties of a troll. So I've had a bunch of transfusions of troll blood put into my system that have been alchemically treated, so it doesn't just completely overwrite or consume you from the inside out, I should say, and so forth and so forth. In the case of monstrous grafts, like a lot of people look down upon them. They are available on less magic, or I should say, less magic, Magitech empowered worlds. Uh, any sort of like mad alchemist or artificer or something similar to that effect, or wizard, could easily create said grafts, provided that they had enough of an understanding of not just the creatures themselves, but anatomy in general. The a lot of these abilities are pretty, or crafts are pretty handy, but there's a bit of a social stigma associated with them. I haven't decided whether that social stigma is just going to be associated with the monster in question, or anyone that realizes that you have monster bits grafted to you. I've also been debating whether or not, like just like the construct grafts, they have a limit as to what slots are available, which is the arms, external, head, internal, and legs. Uh, the slots overlap one another, and so you can't have construct graft legs as well as monstrous graft legs, obviously. I'm wondering if I can also add something where if you try to blend the two, so for example, you have construct arms and you have monstrous legs that have been grafted, I might go with something where they're they're in conflict with one another, like in the sense that like it causes a whole bunch of problems as your body's trying to adapt and adjust to the two different types. I think that might be an interesting idea, to say the very least. Um, the one of the things that's really handy about monstrous grafts is they can be really, really cheap to produce if you know what you're doing. Um, you kill a creature, you kill a monster of a specific type, and then you proceed to if you have a high enough medicine skill, you can harvest the parts necessary for a graft from them. Unless you are able to somehow preserve it, they typically, um, go bad after a few hours. So unless the graft is going to be attached immediately, um, uh, you'd have to use something like gentle repose or a similar nature or similar spell to ensure that it does not decay at all or start rotting. Unlike construct grafts, where construct graft can be it could be hundreds of years old, and so long as corrosion and rust hasn't seeped into it, it can still be installed, sort of deal. Because you can actually go hunting for specific monsters to produce specific grafts, uh, this be, hunting them down, if you're willing to hunt them down yourself, it's a lot cheaper to produce these monster grafts, obviously. Then again, I suppose if you have a lot of anti-living construct mentality, if you have that anti-living construct mentality and are truly a dark and sinister natured character, you could very much just be hunting Warforged and Vec down for construct parts, to say the very least. That might be an interesting side story to introduce later on. Like some gang or group is hunting down the Vec or Warforged for the express purpose of harvesting them, and the brave heroes have to investigate and put a stop to this sinister operation. I don't know if I should have mentioned that on this vlog, because like a lot of the prospective players are listening to this. Yeah. Anyways, uh, as I said, there's a lot of overlap. You have additional things like amphibious adaptation. As I said before, you have the ability to add like regenerating marrow from trolls. You can add tentacles, web spinners. You can even add a bunch of draconic bits to yourself so that you can breathe fire or have that highly resistant hide, that highly energy resistant hide that all dragons seem to have to their particular type of breath weapon. Pretty much all the little interesting special abilities that the various monstrous races that are not necessarily humanoid, but I'll be honest, like pretty much every last graft on this list is from something sentient of some sort or another. I'm not exactly certain as to why at this point. I'm thinking it might have to do with the nervous system or something like that. If I want to go like high, like deep into the scientific nature of things. But that's me rambling about the situation. So, as I said, the two different type of grafts, they're incompatible with one another. The question becomes is why would your character have these, right? If it's not for the special abilities. Like it is cool to have a character that can like spin webs, breathe underwater, or like fly, for example. These are all real cool features that you may not necessarily be able to get from your race, and unless you're a spellcaster of some sort, it's unlikely that you're going to get these in any other way. So that is completely understandable. You want a cool special ability for your character, and you don't want to just rely on a magical item. You get a graft, whether it be construct or monstrous. But the question becomes is, what about replacement parts? Like, your character loses an arm in a fight or battle, and you get a graft. You get what's called a replacement graft. Why would you do that? Like, it's a question that's been posed a few times, like with the combat wheelchair and a few other odds and ends here and there. And I know it can be very controversial. Like I want to, like you say, I want to play a blind character, and it's like, okay, you can play a blind character, but why is your character blind if it's in a world where spells like restoration exists? And it can be a very complex and a very difficult question to answer. And I'm not going to answer that question for everybody. I'm not going to answer that for like I'm not going to say this is my opinion and that's it sort of deal, right? That it's written in stone. This is like a Ten Commandment thing. That's not what I'm doing here. For this campaign setting specifically, I'm going to address the issue. And the way I'm going to address the issue is very simple. Uh, when we're dealing with the the verse at large, there's a disconnect when societies become so advanced that they're traveling amongst the stars, except for the Ave Ra theocracy, there's a growing disconnect between the people and the gods. As a result, there are fewer divine casters in the verse at large. They are more prominent on specific worlds, right? Like especially worlds that aren't as have yet to develop star travel. As a result of this, uh, the people in the verse at large have become more reliant on like replacement grafts and the like. If your character is blind, unless you can afford a pair of construct eyes or maybe even monstrous graft eyes, you're going to be blind. You're in a wheelchair. It could be because you have a broken spine, a broken neck. You could have been born that way. That's that's fine as well. It's unless you can afford the graft, uh, you're going to be stuck in that combat wheelchair. Additionally, maybe you have a sort of genetic predisposition that makes it so that you're very like grafts are going to be rejected easily, like aren't going to be accepted easily by your body. They're going to be rejected. That's another cool idea as well, sort of deal. Um, Additionally, um, when you're dealing with dead magic zones and the like, well, if you've lost a limb inside while you're in a dead magic zone, you're not very likely to be able to call upon the gods for said aid. Uh, at least the replacement limbs available from monstrous grafts as well as construct grafts are functional within dead magic zones. It no I guess scientists, artificers, whatever you want to call it, wizards have been trying to figure this out for ages as to why, of all the graphs and of all the magical items out there and everything else, why these things still function in dead magic zones. They haven't been able to come up with a straight answer yet. Who knows? Maybe one of the players in the group will that will be their character's life mission as a sort of scientific character or a magitech character to investigate why these function and perhaps adapt, if they can adapt that, so that they more magitech and the like can be brought into dead magic zones and remain have some form of functionality. So at the verse at large, graphs will be more readily available than restoration magic. And I'm not saying that restoration magic won't be available. The other thing is they're cheaper. Um, a restoration magic requires an obscene amount, not just in like materials for the casting that can be prohibitively expensive, but you also got to track down a a caster, be they a bard or cleric, priest, druid, whatever, capable of actually performing said spell. So that in of itself can be a quest, even in a magically rich campaign setting. Um, as a result, like I said, these things like there will be. I've decided there will be character NPCs and the like that use wheelchairs. There will be NPCs who are blind. They're missing limbs or what have you. Some of them may have like grafts and the like. I know it can be a bit controversial at times to address this issue of disabilities in D&D. I know that there's some very strong views on the matter, uh, but end of the day, we all play this game to have fun, and regardless as to what your stance on that might be, uh, I'm gonna run like with this campaign. As I said, I'm gonna run a game that I hope my players have fun with. And if they want that stuff in the game, I'm going to put it and include it in the game. It's very simple that way. Don't try to tell people how to run their games. Instead, let them enjoy it. If you want to critique it, by all means, but don't say you have to run it this way or that's not the right way or anything like that. Anyways, I'm rambling on a controversial issue that I probably shouldn't discuss too much of beyond the fact like this is what it is for my campaign. So I do apologize. Sometimes when I start talking about these hot button topics, I just start rambling about them. I guess it's because I guess it's because I've been in this hobby for such a long time and I truly love it, and it breaks my heart when people fight about it. Anyways, rambled for about 25 minutes now. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I haven't decided what I'm going to do next week yet, but I'm certain either somebody will give me a suggestion or I'll come up with something this upcoming week. Till then, may your D20s always be a critical. Have a nice day.